In 2015, we entered through the world and gates of Jurassic World for the very first time. Directed by Colin Trevorrow, starring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Vincent D'Onofrio, this movie is about how a brand new park is on the original site of Jurassic Park, in which they create a brand new scary hybrid dinosaur known as the Indominus Rex. This, of course, creature escapes containment and goes on a killing spree and changes the course of Jurassic history forever. So we're going to dive into this movie and help you decide if this is the right one to watch as a Christian. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Jurassic World is rated PG-13 for some intense sequences of science fiction violence and peril. So we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this movie, any theological themes present, and dive into my own personal thoughts on the film. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. If this is your first time here, the Christian Conviction Meter is a series of 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, this is a guide, tool, and resource to help you find good movies to watch based on the convictions God has given you. Maybe Jurassic World fits it, maybe it doesn't. We're going to dive into all of that right now. And kicking things off with violence and gore here, this is a very death-heavy film. There is a lot. It's about a dinosaur breaking containment, so you know humans are not equipped to take out dinosaurs, and that is very much evident through this film. There is a lot of death as a part of it. Plus, on top of that, there is some gruesome dinosaur action. I mean, by clawing, biting, gnashing of teeth, picking up, and dropping, and chomping, and just all the things dinosaurs have done, in their past life, right before the meteor came and destroyed all of them. That is what is a part of this movie, and it can get pretty brutal, especially for a PG-13 movie at that. I would say this category, as well as our final category, intense and horror sequences, is going to be a little heavier than any other PG-13 film, or at least the average PG-13 film. That being said, though, there also is, of course, some blood contained within the film, because dinosaurs are actively attacking people, and it does mean that they may get blood on them. There also is several sequences of blood kind of splattering on some walls. It's not as gruesome as a rated R movie, but it definitely does push the boundaries for a PG-13 film. We're going to give this a 4 out of 5 in this category in particular. Our next category, lust, and luckily for us, there is nothing in this category, nothing to worry about here. It's going to be a 0 out of 5. Our next category, however, is substances, and there's a few bits and pieces here. Because the transferring of dinosaurs either into their habitats or just taking care of them so they don't cause more damage, it uses a lot of tranquilizer darts that are, of course, a part of this movie. But in terms of actual substances that people use, there is no drugs contained within the film, but there is some references to alcohol. There is a scene where 2 characters are drinking, but there also is a reference to tequila contained within this film. Because of those things, just to be on the safe side, we are going to give this a 1 out of 5. Our next category is profanity, and this is a little bit less than your average PG-13 film, which is kind of nice, but for some of the words that are mentioned here, hell is used, as well as the DA word, the SH word, and the BI word. There also is a bit of name calling here, and also there is the use of God in a more reactionary statement rather than praise and worship. That being said, though, it is maybe a little less than your average PG-13 film, but the language used is still on par with those movies. We're going to give this a 3 out of 5 in this category. Our last category is intense/horror scenes. This is not explicitly a horror movie, although it does kind of contain some horror-esque elements within the film. Like any other Jurassic World or Park movie, you of course are going to have some jump scares because dinosaurs are inherently creepy creatures. At least the carnivorous ones are. There is a few jump scares contained within the film. There is lots of screaming. so much screaming in the film, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of intense gruesome dinosaur action, whether it is by seeing people getting dragged by a dinosaur, getting swallowed whole. Even some sequences also have a dinosaur coming in and just grabbing them and just carrying them away. There is a lot of intensity and scares contained within this film. It again is not explicitly a horror film, so that is something to keep in mind, but if you are like one who's not a big fan of jump scares, it may lean a little heavy into some of those. But it's not as extreme as a horror film usually is, but there is just a good amount of intensity here with this film. We're going to give this a 4 out of 5 in this category as well. So our grand total for Jurassic World is going to be a 12 out of 25, just under halfway on the conviction meter as our total score here. But that being said, it does lean heavy on your violence and gore, and it does lean heavy on your intense / horror scenes. If any of the things we talked about compromises your convictions in any way, shape, or form, make sure to, of course, align with your convictions. Don't worry about watching this movie. The convictions you have are God-given, so make sure to use them. Don't compromise it for the sake of entertainment. Continue to follow Jesus to the best of your abilities while we are here on earth. With that being said, it leads us beautifully into our next topic as we dive into some theological themes present within Jurassic World. And there really isn't anything explicitly about Christianity, the Bible, the church, Jesus. There's nothing specifically contained within this movie. That being said, though, the entirety of the Jurassic franchise really deals with the question, or really the consequences of playing God. Because of the nature of these films and that they are taking old DNA and creating new life, right? They are creating new life rather than, of course, natural processes. These are all artificial processes of creating life, right? It begs the question of, obviously, the morality, but it also begs the question of, is this really how God intended it? And you do see throughout the film the consequences of playing God, the consequences of doing God's work, which is creating life. So that is something to kind of keep in mind with these films. It's a very interesting perspective that these films do bring, and that is kind of the quote-unquote central narrative of the entire franchise, and so that is something to kind of keep in mind. But again, nothing explicitly about Christianity in this film. So with that wrapped up, what are my thoughts on Jurassic World? For a sequel / reboot of this iconic franchise, this one is a lot of fun. And they give us a lot of new in the start of this movie, between new characters, new dinosaurs. Even the park is officially opened in this one compared to it still being under construction in obviously the previous films. So there are a few cool new changes that they bring into this movie, but it does also have some familiarity within it. Of course, using some bits and pieces of nostalgic pulls, with story kind of being fairly similar to some of the jump scares, some other dinosaurs that are a part of this movie. But at the same time too, you also have the familiar notes of the classic John Williams score, even though this time Michael Giacchino does take the reins of this franchise. When it comes to our actors, I really enjoyed our cast of characters here. Chris Pratt is great as Owen Grady, and I think he just creates a very interesting, unique character that we haven't really seen before in this franchise, and it is surprisingly cool. I actually really enjoy his character. At the same time too, Bryce Dallas Howard, I think she is a fantastic actress. I think she really brought something very cool to her character as Claire, but also her character arc through the film is really cool and very enjoyable, and honestly pretty satisfying in its conclusion. Even though she ran the entire time in heels, and that is a little illogical, it still was pretty enjoyable. The story here is pretty good, although it can feel like we are retreading the similar waters of the original Jurassic Park. There still is a lot to enjoy here, and there's some cool bits and pieces of this film that obviously separate it from previous Jurassic movies, but there is just some cool parts to this film that I do enjoy, even though the story as a whole is pretty similar to previous Jurassic installments, and particularly the first one. And overall, the CG here is pretty good. When you compare this one to, of course, the original Jurassic Park, both still hold up in their own ways. Of course, the original Jurassic World, or Jurassic Park, helped to kind of revolutionize and helped to push forward the world of CGI into a whole new level to obviously what we've seen over the last 20 plus years now. It's been pretty incredible. But of course, that is highlighted in particular by its kind of quote-unquote villain of the story with the Indominus Rex. It's a very unique dinosaur that does add some very interesting new flavors and some good scares for the audience as well. It is a very interesting dinosaur and a very interesting quote-unquote villain for this franchise. The beginning here can be quite slow because it's doing a lot of world building, and I feel like it does a really solid job using two kids, particularly Claire's nephews, as kind of our bridge back into this world. I think was really clever, and even though we don't see them in the rest of the trilogy, it still is a really cool way to bring us back into this world. At the same time too, like I said, it can feel a little slow, but when it does pick up and it starts to move, it really picks up steam, not only in its intensity, but also its emotions as well. Overall, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I don't have that many complaints. It's not to the same level as the original Jurassic Park. I mean, there's something about that movie that is just pure magic, but this one is really enjoyable, and overall, I like it. It was fun. I'm going to give this an 8.1 out of 10. Yeah, it's enjoyable. So it's a 12 out of 25 on the conviction meter. It's an 8.1 out of 10 in our review. Those are my thoughts. So let me know yours down in the comments below. Let's chat all things about Jurassic World in the comments. And while you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube. It helps to just send us out into the algorithm, allows us to reach more Christians, to utilize their convictions to ultimately follow Jesus better. We really appreciate it and hope you join us there. Speaking of which, there are a few video recommendations over here that YouTube is suggesting to you. I have no idea what they have picked. Hope to see you over there. We'll see you all in the next one.